You good, buddy?
All right. We're on, man. We're on. We got
That's
there.
it. That's it, mate. Thank you for your time, firstly, mate. I really appreciate it. I know everyone these days is very busy with their time, so I really appreciate you giving me your time to have a chat with me.
All good, man. All good. You got to shoot your shot, right?
That's it, mate. I'll give you a bit of a rundown of what I'm doing with my page, mate. So what I do is I promote the game. I try and promote the game here in Perth.
Yeah.
I go to local games. When the season's on, take videos and pictures of kids at the junior games, the senior games. There was a tournament here not long ago. It was a nines tournament. It was a Harmony Nines, which is a multicultural. Went out to that, did some videos and stuff like that, do some reports, promote the clubs, all that sort of stuff, and then also promote the NRL news, get everyone, keep everyone up to date with that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, cool. And you do it off your own bat, or you?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
Yep. I've got wicked support of my family. I've got missus and 10 kids in the house. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
3 more to go, man. 3 more to go.
Yeah.
Here's your team.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I've got wicked support of my family, so they help me out heaps.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Yeah, it's been good.
Well, you must be one of those guys that everyone knows around the traps, eh?
Not yet. I'm getting there though. I'm getting there. A lot of people there. A few people know me, so yeah, just because I only started it about 7 months ago, so 8 months ago. Yeah, so it's a bit of a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And in the last 4 or 5 months, mate, it's just taken off. So
that's awesome. Always good to try and sort of lend a hand where we can, and support the game that supported us for so long, man.
Yeah, no,
you
absolutely.
had some chats with some of the other boys as well.
Yep. I had Paul Fatuida the other day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Monty Beetham. I'm meant to have a chat with Ruben Wiki coming up. Spud Carroll coming up as well. Yeah, so a few of the boys have jumped on board, and I've had Brett Finch, Jamie Soward, some of these sort of guys.
Yeah, Finch is good value, eh?
Yeah, he is, mate. Yeah,
it's good value.
Absolutely. But it's been awesome. Like I said, mate, I really appreciate everyone's time. It's very valuable these days. So
it's all good, bro. It's all good.
Sweet as. All right, we'll jump into the chat, mate. We'll talk about your career. So you started in '96, mate. You debuted with the Warriors. You only played one game with them before moving on to Warrington. Come back to the Warriors. Jump across to the Bulldogs, Sharks, and then you finish up at South, mate. Do you sort of, with your career, do you sort of look back? Is there anything in particular that sort of you look back on and go, this made me a better person, through your career, or a better father, or better, anything else?
Straight off the bat, eh?
Yeah.
You get those stats off Wikipedia. I think, I was part of the first year at the Warriors, actually in '95, one of the young fellas coming through. And I didn't play first grade that year. I got an opportunity, like you said, in '96. But at the end of that year, I just wanted to travel, and I sort of wanted to just use league as a vehicle to just go and see the world. So the Super League clubs come knocking in '96. They just started Super League over in the UK, and they were looking for a whole heap of young fellas to try and sort of fill up some spots, and I sort of put my hand up and went, man, I want to go, So I left home for the first time in my life, then went to England, the north of England, at 21, So I think that was actually probably the biggest thing that got me going, because I had to live on my own, and up in the north in another country. I'd been to Australia a couple of times by then, but I'd never lived on my own. I was still living at home. So to go from home to the north of England on your own, leaving here, and it was around this time, actually, November, December, and arriving there, which is middle of winter, so that the total opposite, So just everything that was thrown in, all the bits and pieces was a pretty steep learning curve for me. But one I think I look back on now and think, it actually sort of I had to become a man pretty quick. The voice of men, man, those guys. So I had to go up pretty quick and do my own washing, do my own cooking, make sure the oven was turned off when I had left and went to training, all that sort of stuff that mum and dad used to do. So I think it really helped me throughout the rest of my journey with being able to handle some of those sort of bits and pieces off the field.
Yeah, cool. Do you look back on your career, and is there any sort of certain game or certain thing that you look back and you just go, wow, like I had an amazing career or amazing opportunity at, you're just talking about living in north of England, obviously amazing opportunity, but looking back at your career is like, do you look at it and go, wow, I did have an amazing career?
I don't know if it was amazing, man. It was just, it was fun, and I had a lot of fun times along the way. I think for me, I'm still bumping into people now, and I haven't played for ages, I've probably been out the game about 10 years now, or off the field anyway. And people are still, I bump into people and they go, oh, shucks, I remember this, I remember that, And I'm back here in Auckland now. Actually, I come back to New Zealand about 4 years ago. So I'm back in Auckland. When I left, went to England, came back to the Warriors for 3 years, and then went to the Bulldogs. I ended up being in Australia for 17 years, So to come back here, I'd seen a lot of people that I haven't seen for a long time. And then I remember there was that game, we had a barbecue on and we put the game on. We saw you do this and that, So I think it's probably more, you don't realize the impact that you have on other people, until you sort of, I guess, stumble along and meet them, in the afterlife. So it's been pretty cool and pretty humbling, for people to still, whenever I meet people and they sort of mention games, I'll say, well, were you cheering or were you booing? Let's get that out of the way first. But I guess to have that opportunity to put a smile on some people's faces was pretty cool, and to be able to do it for a living and something that I enjoyed growing up doing was pretty awesome anyway. So
yeah, cool. I mean,
not sure if that answers your question, bro, but
no, it does, mate. It does. And like for me personally, mate, you get to play for New Zealand as well, and then finally represent Samoa. Not everyone gets to do that sort of stuff, mate. So for you to be able to have that recognition to be selected in those sides, you must have had an amazing career. Me personally, I think you did. And a lot of
thanks, bro.
you getting in, like these people that you're saying, getting in touch with you obviously had that impact on them. So whether you might not have won a Daily M, Player of the Year or anything like that, it's still an amazing career, buddy.
Yeah, it was cool, and I was pretty blessed and pretty humbled, I guess, to be able to sort of go on that journey, and I pretty much went straight from school, into that environment, So it's sort of, it was fun and it was awesome. Great to be able to connect. You speak about, representing New Zealand. Like I never thought I was good enough to play, first grade at my junior club, so that was my goal. And I grew up in central Auckland and I played for a club, Richmond Bulldogs, and it's like, that was just like, if I can play at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon for the top team, man, I'm going all right. I'm going all right. Anything after that's a bonus, so I've sort of kind of looked at it like that, where, man, I'm just going to ride the wave and wherever it goes, it goes. Get an opportunity to play for New Zealand was awesome. Play for the Kiwis. Our first game actually was here in Auckland after Super League and the ARL got back into bed together in Oz, and they set up in '98, and they basically merged that super team, like your Broncos and Raiders and boys and your Bulldogs boys with your, your Roosters and your sort of your St. George guys and your Manleys, your Tuvies and all these guys, and made the super team, and that was when I made my debut. And I'm like, oh man, good luck in this game, And we were just, misfits. We were still getting guys from England, Robbie Paul and Henry Paul arrived on a Wednesday. We had a Friday test match, the first ever Anzac test, and we won. So it was, so it was just looking back at it now, that was pretty amazing experience to be able to play for Samoa and get an opportunity to captain as well. My first game as captain, we played Tonga at Penrith, in the World Cup. Awesome, we got them that day too, So that has been a pretty like even you just asking the question brought back a couple more memories, you know. And I think along the way, people were just bringing back more and more memories for me, man. And it went so quick that I don't think I've really had a chance to sort of stop and reflect. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe the kids will, and they'll tell me when I'm old and I can't remember anything.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, that's what they're there for, isn't it, mate? Yep. When you were a kid, mate, did you have like an idol? You know, not just a sports star, but it could have been your parents or whatever. Who was your idol growing up, and what was it about them that made them your idol?
Oh man, yeah, I'm not really sure if I had an idol. I mean, I'd always looked up to my mum and dad, because that, I don't know, that's probably the cliche one. But I think like my mum was a school teacher, and she sort of worked hard. She retired for a bit. When we got old enough, she went back to school and she studied and went through all that sort of stuff. So she really sort of promoted that side of education for us and life balance and what have you. And my dad went to school in Samoa. So both my parents are Samoan. My dad went to school in Samoa when he was 7, got kicked out at 9 and didn't go back. So he was at the other end of the spectrum, right? So I think growing up with those two, it gave me perspectives on how to sort of, I guess, live in the system. And you go to school and you get your HSC and you go to uni and get a good job, get a good home, and that. Or you're out at 9 like Dad was, and you're just a survivor, and you're just hustling, and you're sort of just whatever. They say, people throw you lemons, make lemonade. So it's like, he always made the best of whatever situation, good or bad. So I think to be able to grow up in that always sort of helped me along my journey. And I think probably maybe from a football sense, when I was growing up as a kid at a junior club, there was a couple of guys that were playing, Kiwis actually. Fred Arcoy was playing for New Zealand at the time, and Tete Solomona, right? So Tete was playing, right? And it was sort of like, shucks, man, these guys grew up a couple of streets away from me. They were a bit older, but they still got an opportunity to sort of travel the world and go on these planes and stay in hotels, So it actually, I guess, the kids from the era gave us a bit of hope that, man, you know what, we can actually sort of, we don't have to fall in line like everyone else over here. We can actually aspire to do different things, And I think it encouraged us. Like I played with my cousin Nigel Vangna, so we grew up together and played in the same team together. And he went on and had an awesome sort of career, So to be able to sort of go, man, it's I think those guys actually gave us belief that kids from the era could go on and do some different things, So I think maybe all of those, people merge into one.
Yep, absolutely, mate. Yeah, I mean, the parents are, the backbone of everyone, and they deserve to be the idols of everyone growing up, mate. Certain situations, parents aren't, but yeah, I mean, your parents are the cornerstone of everyone's careers, mate. They're the ones that push you and guide you in the right direction.
And I actually found a little paper article, newspaper thing from years ago, and my dad kept it, and he showed us, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or something like that, and he showed me, and it was from a school game. And I went to school, went to St. Paul's College in Auckland, and we sort of had a decent league team then. And I was playing with, Stacey Jones was in the team, my cousin Joe was in the team. We were all right, man. We had a good squad, and we But I remember doing an interview, and they asked me, what's the best piece of advice, or what advice have you got from anyone, and I said, oh, my dad always said, don't be a show off, and I found it, and it sort of just stuck with me the whole time. And I don't know if sort of that's just my personality or his, but I always remember, and I saw it the other day, and I thought, oh shucks, so it was true, eh? It was true. But in saying that, it's just like, enjoy the what you got, why you got it. You don't know how long it's going to last, but at the same time, be mindful and be, I guess, have empathy for other people in their own situations as well. So
yeah. No, absolutely, mate. I couldn't have said that any better, buddy, myself. I was just looking at the stats before, mate. 2002, you're the first person since 1942 to to score 5 tries in the game, and in the same year you end up being centre of the year. When you finish the game after scoring the 5 tries, did the reporters and stuff would have been all over you about that? How did that make you feel?
Oh, I mean, that was a good night, a good night for us. It was actually probably more hype because South's just come into the system, right? They sort of were booted out and they actually come back. So that was, and we played them early in the year. I think it might have been round 3 or round 4. So the hype around South Sydney, the return of South Sydney and Russell Crowe and all the rest of it was still quite big. They did that big protest and the big march and made it through anyway. So there was a lot of hype around that game. And when I was at the Bulldogs, but when I came from the Warriors, we didn't really get Friday games because Friday nights, the time difference, I guess, and plus the team was up and down. And in those days, they used to try and get the top games on Friday nights and then Sunday Arvo and then everyone else in between, right?
Yeah.
So when our team was going all right, we started getting a lot of these Friday games. So to be able to play those Friday games, there's a lot more eyes on you because it's free to air, Channel 9 and all the rest of it. Maybe out your ways and Pref, I don't know. Yeah. But then, when I played that game, I ended up getting those tries. I should have got 6 actually. I stuffed one up, but you don't see that. But anyway, it was pretty cool to be able to do that, and there was a lot of people that were pretty excited about it. I sort of, you kind of sort of just go through it and do what you do as a game. But after the game, I don't really remember too many people coming up. I remember we had a players player thing that we did at the Dogs. And afterwards, Jamie, who do you think is our players player today? And they go around to everyone. And the manager at the time, Gary Hughes, comes to me and he goes, and this is one of the Hughes brothers, he played with the Mortimers and all these guys, right? So he'd been around the club for Yonks, right? And he sort of said, in all my time here, this is the first time where all 16 players have voted for the same person, And he goes, so I'm not even going to ask for your vote, because, and I went, oh, sweet, thanks, appreciate it, But it was a pretty, looking back now, it was a pretty special game to be a part of, and good to give back to the fans too, when I come to the Dogs, not really many people, I don't know, they didn't, I was there the year before in 01 and they didn't make the 8 in 2000, I think, the year before. So, and I also didn't realize how passionate they were, because in New Zealand, we were just in New Zealand, right? It was just the Warriors and that was it. So to be able to sort of, I guess, give the fans a bit of enjoyment and thank them for sticking with us was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, awesome,
the family enjoyed it too, and the family enjoyed it too. And what, my little fella, he's 12 now, or just turned 13 last week. Him and all his mates, they're all online and all on YouTube and, all this sort of stuff. So they can see all that stuff now. So they were always sort of going, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that, so they're analysing me now. But that was cool. It's good fun, and I guess with online stuff, it's good for them to be able to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Absolutely. You mentioned before, you got to play with your cousin Joe. How was that moment for you personally, and the whole family, that both of you are playing, first grade NRL at the same time?
Oh, it was awesome, man. Actually, if there was ever a more sort of specific type of idol, I guess I probably would have left that Joe. It would have been Joey, because we're 3 weeks apart, right? Now, he's a bit older than me, but we grew up, did everything together. But I'm sort of, a lot smaller than he is. But so he was like a man-child coming through the system, and he always made the rep teams before I did. So he would make it, and then I'd be like, okay, sweet, I'm going to try and get in next year, or he'd play for Auckland, and I'd play for Auckland the following year. He get an NRL contract, I get an NRL. So I always sort of was chasing him, and he was always raising the bar, which was awesome because I think it helped inspire me, And then when we sort of got in, because when I went to England, Joey was still here at the Warriors, and then when I came back, the Warriors wanted me to come back, so they bought me out of the contract over at Warrington, brought me back for 3 years, and I got to play with Joey every week, and that was the first time since junior footy that we could do that. So it was awesome to be able to sort of just be on the park, and I knew his game, and you don't realise it at that level, and I guess you got guys, that your maybe your Cam Smiths and your Coopers and your Billies, when they're together, they know each other's game so well. They know, all right, when there's this situation, that guy's going to do this, so I'll put myself over here because he normally does that, then I normally do that. Right? So you just get there, and then the rest is history, right? And they were doing it for Melbourne and Queensland and Australia for years. So whenever Joe was playing, I'd always kind of knew what he was going to get up to by his body language, and I try and put myself on the edge of it. And he was like, I remember coming through junior key, was him and Shane Webke were the two. They were sort of going at it. Oh, not Shane Webke, Adam Whitson, who got hurt a few years ago, but he was like a beast of a player for Australia. Joe was our sort of beast, and they were going at it. But then, once sort of Adam got hurt and couldn't continue, Shane Webke was the guy, right? So they were sort of, that was their battles. And that game, I played my first test for the Kiwis. A year later, I played for New Zealand, and we were playing against Australia. I was in the final, and I'm on the same wing as Wendell, right? Good old Wendell. And I remember Darren Smith, when I went to the Bulldogs, he told me this a couple of years later. And we were down by about 2 points. There was probably 5 minutes left. And we're playing here at Auckland at Mount Smart. We get a penalty. We kick it out. We're at the 40, and Joe's coming on the burst. And I'm on the wing, right? I'm on the right wing. And Joe's doing the hit up from the penalty, and he's charging into them. And Darren Smith's at the other centre, so it's Smithy and Wendell. And Smithy goes, listen, I'm going to go in. Actually, sorry, Wendell goes, I'm going to go in. I'm going to try and smash Big Joe. I'm going to try and smash him and take him, So anyway, when they tapped it past it, Joey, everyone sort of converged on him. And Wendell's gone to Smithy, and you watch Nigel, on the edge there. I'm going to go in for one, and I'll come back. They all jam in on Joey. Joey drags in about 4 of them. He's bumping them and all off, and they're all trying to push him out. And I think, man, because he's always had a really good offload. And I'm thinking, if I put myself over there and he can jag a ball out, I'm gone. And I say, they're pushing him towards the sideline, and I fly up the sideline. And then Joe popped a little one, I get it, and I'm gone. Run sort of, 30 or whatever, and score the try. Right? So we're up by 2 points now. And on that way back, I hear Wendell and Smithy going at each other, and they're arguing. I think they're both at the Broncos then. I told you to watch my back. Well, you should have went in. Who are you trying to smash your wing? I get back out there, and all this sort of. But then, they end up scoring a couple of minutes later and get us anyway, at the death. But that sort of stuff with Joe was always awesome to be able to I guess connect on the field and play like we did when we were kids, So, and to do it at all those different levels was really sort of awesome. Really blessed.
Yeah, awesome, man. I mean, I couldn't imagine playing with any of my family. I've played cricket and stuff like that with my stepbrother and my dad. It's an amazing feeling. You had to be on the same park as them. So
yeah, it is. I mean, there's thousands of people out there too. And I was actually thinking about it the other day, talking to someone about it, and they were like I went to school with Stacey, so we all grew up together with Stacey. Stacey was in that game too. And then the team as well. And we sort of, David Solomona, we all went to school together. So Dave was with us, throughout our journeys as well, So it's been awesome to still have childhood friends. You enjoy that world together, whether it's club football at NRL or test football, and traveling on tours and stuff. It was, it was a really special time and good to be able to share it with some good mates and some family.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, I bet it was. Just want to go back to 2002, mate. There was a bit of an incident you had with Clinton Torpy.
Toops, yeah.
Yeah. If people want to, read up on the incident, they can, but I'm not going to go into it with you. How did you sort of deal with that situation, and the after stuff that came with it from?
Yeah, it was actually pretty funny. I mean, it was actually quite funny because we didn't know what was going on because we were still on tour. And basically, Toops, we'd had a few beers after the game, and we were sort of all back at the hotel, and they were trying to get him to go to sleep. Logan's phone, and there's a group of them at the, I don't think I've ever told this So just for you, right? But anyway, they're at the elevators and they're trying to sort of get everyone in, and they fall over, and they reckon that's where he did his hand, right? I don't know. But he wasn't hurt after the test. So anyway, we go upstairs, and the next morning I go and see him, because he was sort of, had a few beers and he was peeing a lot of the guys. And as one of the senior players, I went and seen him. And I'm going, bro, what's up with your hand? And he goes, I don't know, man. It was all like, and he had an ice pack on it. And I said, oh, man, you really got to get it checked out. And anyway, he sort of went and got it checked out. And our doctor at the time had never been with an NRL club, and he'd never been on the tour before. So they diagnosed it as he broke his wrist, or he broke a bone in there or something, right? So they ended up sending him home. This is from England. So they worked their way through, sent him home. And the Warriors at the time, Daniel Anderson was coaching, and what's his name? They had a CEO there, and I can't remember his name at the time. But they didn't want a lot of their boys to go for whatever reason. They had a good year the year before. They just made the grand final. Right? Right. So they after we got booted out at the Docks, so 2002, man, what a year. So we got so I think they didn't want a lot of the guys to go, but a lot of them made the team. So they had this animosity towards the environment anyway. And when Toops came back, they made a big thing about it. I didn't realize it was in the papers and stuff for a while until my wife sort of said, hey, there's this article, a picture of you in the paper, what happened over there? And I told her that, I said, oh, nothing really happened. The man fell over, going up to the room in the elevator. And anyway, so she sent me a thing, and it was like this big sort of, brawl and all this sort of stuff. And I'm going, oh, what happened there? And she goes, this is the one that, you were tips to. And I went, it wasn't even like that. But I think the staff at the time at the Warriors wanted to make more of it, so that a lot of their guys, there was ulterior motives and agendas in it, but it was, we had a fun time. Me and two good mates, good mates now, and we were straight away after anyway. But it was actually quite funny that looking back, because I'd never. They had a picture of me, and I think I was a thug, and I was this and I was that. Which is quite, I don't know, I didn't really understand the media sort of stuff until later on when I finished playing and started working in the NRL and saw how the big business of sport worked. So then it made sense to me. But I get how guys get frustrated when they're playing, any athletes, I guess, the scrutiny and then, it was an interesting time. It was an interesting time. But I don't think many people really sort of, I don't know if they remember it or if they really talk about it or ask me about it anymore,
Yeah.
Me and Toops both ended up working at the NRL. He was working in the community, I was working in wellbeing. So we were still doing that stuff together. But it was an interesting time back then. But because I think we were over in the UK and then we were over in France, I didn't really sort of feel the brunt of it, really. And then I came back and we're straight back into preseason. Everyone's getting ready, and it's like, the old fish and chip paper, eh? Today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip paper, man, and everyone's just on.
Yep. You mentioned there about your job with the NRL and the education and welfare, mate. What did that job entail?
It's probably funny. I was just talking about what happened over with Toops and them is like the NRL they rang me. So at the end of the 2008, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep playing. I was at the Bunnies then. I had another year, but I wasn't too sure. Anyway, to go back over the UK, some rugby teams were trying to ring up and what have you. And I'd sort of played 13, 14 years by then, and I'm like, so the NRL rang up and said, listen, let's catch up. We heard you might be thinking of finishing up. We might have a role for you that we think you'd be good for. Okay, sweet, just going to have coffee. So when it caught up, and they said, oh, listen, we've got a role here in education and wellbeing, which we think be good for you, and I said, oh, okay, well, what is it? And they put it, and they said, well, basically working with their players in their life off the field, right, helping them prepare. So when they retire, they can move into the next phase, help them study or whatever it is, but at the same time, working with the young fellas as well, coming into the system, and then working with the guys in the system, our boys, and then the guys who just retired, and helping them, so those sort of three groups. And I went, I said, I never really studied for that stuff. I said, why me, And they went, well, you played at the highest level and you had longevity in your career. So you've got the respect of your peers, right? So you know the environment, they know you know it, so they'll listen to you. Right? And I said, you studied where you were playing, so you understand life balance and how to make it work with regards to the football side and the off-field stuff. I said, and then you also didn't give us any headaches in the back page your whole career. It's funny, we were just talking about tips and them, and all that sort of. And it's like they end up giving me a job after. But no, I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, you know what? I still got a lot of good mates that are playing, still in the system. So I'll have a crack and jump in. I guess if I can help them, I'll see how long it lasts. Ended up doing that for 10 years.
Wow.
Working behind the scenes, and it was great. It was great. And plus, we had a lot of Pacific, boys and Kiwi boys in the system. So I thought, and we didn't have anyone behind the scenes, So going into the NRL, I remember walking in first day, I was the only brown guy in the office, and I'm going, where is everyone? But to be able to sort of add that diversity into the group going, because at the time we were 30% of the game, right? Pacific, Māori, Indigenous were about 10, 15%. So nearly half the game, but, wasn't reflected behind the scenes, So I'm going, well, if they're going to set up programs for the Pacific and the Kiwi guys, who's going to do it here? Because there's no Pacific or Kiwi people in here. You know what I mean? It sort of just didn't make sense to me. So anyway, it was cool to be in there and do that. And I actually really enjoyed it and got to work with a whole heap of good people, got to understand the business of sport behind the scenes. And it's big business, but it was a real eye opener. And I was actually really, really lucky to be able to, I had a couple good, bosses, I guess, the managers when I jumped in that were really awesome guys, so, and helped me on my journey and gave me that freedom and flexibility to be me, but also, help the environment where I can. So it worked out really well.
Well, that's awesome, mate. I mean, I couldn't have thought of a better person to do that sort of stuff, like they said, just coming out of retirement and you got that respect.
Yeah, maybe not 2002, man, after all those newspapers. But it was, it got me to Perth, I came over to Perth and did some stuff a few years ago, with regards to the Pacific tournaments they were helping over there and just trying to sort of line them up with the NRL strategy at the time and support them better, so that they can sort of do, over your ways, man, there's heaps of Kiwis and heaps of Islanders over there, so how can we keep them connected to the game and work out ways for the game to support them? So I was actually really lucky because it took me to all these different places, and because I was at head office, I had to work with all 16 clubs. So I go to Brisbane, I go to Melbourne, I go to Canberra. So it was really good because I go see family, hey, I'm coming down. I'm going to do some stuff at the Raiders for a little while, and then I'm going to come see you. So it was good for me to see, see people and family and friends I haven't seen for a while and get the NRL to pay for it,
That's the way, mate. That's the way.
And that's my dad's side, man. That's my dad's side, man. He's hustling, man. He's a survivor.
That's the way. Beautiful. With your career, mate, or not, maybe not just in your career, but in life in general, was there a dark time? Maybe you went through depression or something. I don't know. Was there a dark time in your life? And how did you get through it?
I'm not really too sure. If I think back, probably the most challenging maybe for me was working out, because I was at the Bunnies and I signed for 3 years, but the third year was an option. And halfway through the second year, Jason Taylor was coaching us at the time. And I was like, I'm not really enjoying this. Do I sort of, keep going, or do I pull the pin, And I think that during that period, it was like, shucks, if you're not doing that, what are you doing? Because like I said, I went straight from school and most of the guys now will go straight into school. The programs are a lot better now where they sort of support you all the way through. But, it's still that sense of loss and change that all players go through, and all the guys you would have spoken to, Sally and Finchy and, Dow and these guys, Paulie Fats, he's had a crazy sort of, journey the last few years. But it's But I think for me, and I don't know if I've been pretty lucky or if it's just the way that I was brought up and how I sort of handled myself throughout my journey. That I think that the biggest challenge for me was when I actually was looking to retire, and then what's the next phase? Because I've got kids to support and bills to pay and all that sort of stuff, right? So how do you still be you? Still maintain your identity as well, and the person you are, but at the same time, move into the next phase. And that was pretty sort of scary, I think, for me. My wife was working at the time, and looking back now, it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But I guess a lot of situations are. But when you're going through it, it can be quite challenging. And I think for me, one of the things that helped me through it as well was throughout my whole career, I'd always kept in touch with a lot of the guys that were out, a lot of my mates that were outside of the system. Right. So if we had a game against the Raiders, for example, we're playing in Canberra, or maybe not Raiders because we were on the bus straight back, Melbourne, right? So we go to Melbourne and we're staying there, and after the game, we've got an overnighter, or even before the game, I'd go and catch up with people, with my friends or my family, right? So I'd always sort of kept them there, and they were separate to this environment. So we had different discussions. Hey, remember these two got married, or these two had a baby, or remember uncle this, or whatever. So we talk about that, right? So when the football side finished, I still had all that, all along the way, and I think that actually helped me. And when I jumped into the wellbeing role behind the scenes, I had always thought about that, and I'd always tell the young guys, man, make sure you hold on to your friends outside of the environment, because you could be gone from this environment. One training session, you could be gone.
Yep.
So it can happen that quickly. But if it doesn't happen that quickly and it takes 10 years, it's still going to happen. Yep. So hold on to those guys and keep them in your day ones and what have you, because those are the ones that are going to catch you when you fall out of this environment. And if you're not treating them, I guess, well, or you forget them, then it's going to be a lot tougher for you, So I think I was pretty lucky that way, and that helped me through some of those challenges when I was looking to retire, But I think for the most part, aside from that, I'd never really sort of dwell too much on negativity, Yep. I was just that type of guy. So I think it helped me, I mean, some people go through some real, deep challenges, but for me, I've always sort of been probably at the other end of the spectrum. Well, I think anyway,
Like the other part to my question there was, it's you, like you said, you've been pretty lucky not having to go through the depression sort of stuff. But mental health being a big thing these days. Have you got any advice to people that are going through a dark, depressing time in their life?
Oh man, yeah, it is quite hard, and I've done a lot of programs, and we've done a lot of bits and pieces around it over the years around this space. But I think as easy as it is to say, listen, just reach out to someone, when you're in that space, for a lot of people, that's the last thing you want to do. You know what I mean? That's the last thing. So maybe it's not so much reach out, but I think it's just try and do things that you love. If you're struggling at work, for example, right? Or you're a young kid and you're struggling at school, but you love fishing, man, go and fish after school. Down to the river, down to the creek, down to the rocks, whatever it is, if you love to, listening to Bob Marley, go and listen to Bob Marley. You know what I mean? Because a big part of it for people that are struggling like that is like you don't feel that you can get out of it. But when you do something you like, you actually open up more. And when you open up more, you're actually open to, someone like, you just reaching out. And I remember like with Paul, and he sort of shared his story, everywhere and all over, and he's had a pretty out of it sort of journey. But I remember I was sending him messages, just all the time. He didn't come back for ages, but I'd send him one, how you going, man? Just drop in and say hi. But until they actually open to receive it, it wasn't, and he talks about that, and he'd see these messages, he goes, and he was going through all this stuff. But it's like, unless you're open to receive it, it's hard to help. But to be open, you've got to sort of kind of do stuff that you like and try and, I guess, swing the balance a bit. So for me, I think if anyone's going through a dark time, and I know there's a lot of things that can, people try and block out stuff all the time. I've got to block it out, right? I've got to block it out. I'm going through this, I've got to block it out. Well, block it out with something you like doing. Don't go and block it out with alcohol. Don't go and block it out with the smoke. Go and block it out by doing this and that. Do it with something, like something positive that you like. If you like listening, like you said earlier, you like listening to Taylor Swift. Right? If you like listening to Taylor Swift, Jamie, go for it. But you just put it on and just jam it and just dance. Right? But when you do that, it just tries to sort of, shift a few things upstairs that might be leading you this way. And then by doing that, you're shifting the dial a bit, So that's my advice, if that makes sense.
No, mate, it's absolutely perfect advice, mate. And you're right. Take your mind off those negative things and do something that you love. It will help you open up to
walk,
the avenues.
Yeah, play with the dog when you got a pet or something, or the neighbour's got a pet. Go play with their dog, go play with their cat, take it for a walk, whatever. Just do something you love. And I think that sort of helps at least start to push back against whatever you're going through and whatever you're feeling. You start sort of facing it head on and having a crack at turning it around. Yeah,
that's the way, bro. With this, the 17th team just happened. With the Dolphins. Obviously, the NRL is not going to look at having 17 teams in the competition for very long. What do you reckon the chances of Perth having the next NRL team?
Obviously, the biggest challenge with Perth I think the biggest challenge with Perth is the turnarounds, right, with regards to travel. It's closer to fly to New Zealand from Sydney or from the East Coast than it is to fly to where you are. You know what I mean? So I think that is a challenge. But if they can overcome that challenge, and you know what, they do it in the States all the time, where Brooklyn got to go to LA and play the Lakers on a road trip. So it's. I think it would be awesome to have a team in Perth. I really do. I don't think New Zealand is ready for another one just yet. But I think Perth has been knocking on the door for a while, and it's, if they can make it work, I think it'll be fantastic. I don't know how they can because you're going to have to reschedule. They might do conferences if there's 18, but even that, you're sort of 9 and 9, so. But I think they are. I mean, you guys got an Origin the other day, didn't you?
Yep. We had one 2 years ago. Over here, we had game 2, and then we got one this year coming up.
Yeah, you got one for season coming up. Yeah, so I think they do still. The game still has a lot of value, or places a lot of value on Perth. The game being played over there. So I'm guessing with Abdo and the new regime up there, they sort of be able to see the benefits of it and try and work out ways. They seem to be fairly malleable at the moment, with making situations work. Whenever whatever life throws at you. Well, if they're throwing you a 5-hour plane trip, how can you make it work? And I think, what's it? Melbourne to North Queensland. What's that trip? It's about the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Or so I think it can be done.
Well, for me, I guess my argument to what you were saying, and you do make a valid point. My argument to it is, the NRL is trying to compete with the AFL, in Australia especially, and the AFL has got 2 teams in Perth, and they make it work every week. So if they can make it work every week, why can't the NRL?
That's right. And I know a lot of from my time spent in the office at HQ. They did keep an eye on all that sort of stuff. I mean, they also have a draft in the NFL so they could share the talent around, So I know one of the challenges is, and I think the SG ball teams and Harold Matson, what have you, or the Jersey Flag from Perth were going over and playing the New South Wales comp. I don't know if that's still happening.
The Pirates. They're playing the SG
Oh, is that
ball.
those guys? Yeah. So they were going over to try and build up that base, right? But then you don't want to build up that base, and then the best players end up going to play on the East Coast for the Bunnies, and the Dragons and the Sharks. You actually want to keep them there in a competition to nurture them through. So you've got a channel and a pipeline coming through into a team if you sort of eventually sort of jag one, But no, I think one over those ways would be. And when I went over there, like I said, I was over there a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago or something like that, and there was a lot of passionate people around there, a lot of expats from the East Coast and from New Zealand that are over there for work and various reasons, and ones that are born and bred over there that are really passionate about the game. So there is definitely, I think, big opportunities if they can jag the 18th spot.
Yeah, well, I'm personally hoping, that they do, and like you were saying before about the young kids in the Pirates and stuff, they are getting their opportunities are over east, so they play for the Pirates and the SG Ball, and then there's no pathway for them, so they have to go play over east if they want to go further to the NRL.
That's right. I remember some guys. Yeah, that's right. I remember some guys over there that went. Is there a couple of guys from Perth in the NRL at the moment?
Yeah, there's a guy for the Bulldogs. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But you got Jordan Pereira, who just signed with the Broncos.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a couple in the NRLW as well that are from.
Oh, okay.
Kennedy Sherrington, I think her name is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen that last name. Okay. Yeah, because I remember a few years ago they had a couple good kids from the 16s, and they ended up playing for, I don't know, some teams over on the other side. And it's like, well, how are these guys going to keep growing if you're picking the brains out of each team, putting them over there, and the rest are like, oh, well, what do we do now? Let's just sort of play local. The standard isn't as good, maybe. So how do they sort of continue to grow that pipeline? And you know what? The same thing happened in New Zealand, right? Because if you take 3 or 4 teams, and if you take 3 or 4 good players out of a 16-year-old team, that's a big difference. Especially if you've got 2 halves, a fullback and a hooker, or a prop, a half, and a couple of outside backs, and that's the core of your squad. So it is quite hard, and the effect is here in New Zealand as well, So it's just trying to work out ways to stem that and give the kids opportunities, and in turn create that pipeline that can make a team sustainable if you guys get the nod,
Yeah, I think the only viable way for this sort of stuff to happen, if they want a team in Wellington eventually, and a Perth team or wherever the next sort of couple of teams come from, they need to do a draft system and a trade period as well. So the talent is getting spread around, the young talent coming through, and then the trade period. So teams like Melbourne they're struggling to keep Brandon Smith at the moment, where they can go, well, he's on contract with us. Let's trade him for the couple of first round picks in the draft coming up.
Yeah,
the AFL, the NBA, all these sort of competitions do that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, and they've been having those discussions. I know they've been having those discussions for a long time. And different challenges around that. I mean, I did when I was at HQ. I was lucky enough to do some work over at the NBA and over in the States. The NFL and stuff, and understand more about that sort of world and how it works over there. I think a big reason that nobody really challenges the drafts over there is they've got like thousands and thousands of athletes trying to compete for a handful of spots, and if you're a first round draft pick in the NBA, you're picking up 3 to 5 million a year. If they had that in the NRL, man, you would go play anywhere for 3 or 5 a year, as a 19-year-old. Yeah, but send me there. I'm going, we go Fremantle? Yeah, let's go. We're going Perth? Yeah, we're going anyway, you know what I mean? So that sort of comes into play as well, which is why people are happy to go wherever. But then, I guess all the bits and pieces around it. But yeah, they've had those discussions about the draft for a long time, man. And I don't imagine they'll be going away anytime soon.
Yeah, that's it. I've only got a couple more questions for you, mate. So, I know, like I said, I know time's pretty valuable these days, especially with the family.
Yeah,
Advice for kids coming up in sports. Have you got any? You're not just in sports, but in life in general. Have you got any advice for these kids coming up today?
How old are these kids?
Just any sort of kids, mate. Any sort of kids. Just in life in general, even if it's it could be sports, life, school, whatever.
I think you've got to have fun. I mean, life really is getting pretty crazy at the moment, especially in these times, right? So the last couple of years, but I think you just need to, work out ways to have fun. If you've got, if you don't have much money, go outside and, get some rocks, put a target on a tree outside or a fence or something, and just practice. Just try and throw it at it. Like make up your own games. We did it as kids. And kids all around the world do it. But I think when you're having fun, I took some kids to the beach yesterday. My young fellow and his two mates. And we were just at the beach, and I said, all right, listen, pick a spot on the sand. I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll tell you something to draw, and you just draw it. Right? Yep. And then they were going, no, in the car. Yep, sweet. So they were trying to draw it on the sand. The clock's ticking. But they were laughing, and they were trying to put all their bits and pieces on. But it's just simple stuff, and it's free, And I think if kids can be kids, you got to have fun, man. You got to have fun. Like my daughter finished school this year, so she was year 13. So she just finished like last week. So school's finished for her now, and it's just gone just like that. And she's like, man, and we remember her first day, but you go up so fast, So I think if the more fun you can have as a kid, the more you'll be able to see life when you get a bit older and be able to sort of, I guess, make the best of a tough situation, because you've always done it in life. We've got no money, but let's go and get some rocks and let's do this, or let's go to the beach and do the sand or whatever, So I think if you can have fun as a kid, that'll be my number one. And maybe number two or another one would be look at the kids that you're hanging around with, and are they helping you have fun? Good fun or not so good fun? You know what I mean? And we used to say to the guys coming through the systems, the issue war boys and the fleet guys, the 16s and 18s boys that come to the system, would say, think of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right, outside of your family. Right? So your 5 friends outside of your family that you spend the most time with, right? Now, if you think of those 5, right, think of each one of them. Are they helping you get to where you want to get to, or are they hindering you, right? So are they saying to you, listen, man, you got to get some sleep because you got a game tomorrow. You need your rest. You guys are playing the Broncos, in a semi-final. Or are they going, man, you know what? You got heaps of time. It's a night game. You can sleep all day tomorrow. It's just come with us. We're only going to go to the party for 20 minutes, then we'll come back. I promise I'll drop you off. You know what I mean? Are they helping you get there, or are they hindering you? Think about that, and we'd say, listen, you don't have to tell us. These are your friends, right? But just think about the people that you're around, because that will sort of help determine and dictate where you're heading, And so I guess maybe for kids in general, like you think about the group that you hang out with and stuff. Are they all positive and helping you sort of, you're all empowering each other and growing and laughing and enjoying it? Or are you all sort of on the spiral going a different way, So, because there's still time to change as kids, man. You still got time to change.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Man, I wouldn't have thought of that advice, but yeah, that's great.
We'll tell your kids that, man. Kids, come here. I just thought of something. Everyone come in.
No, we get them to watch this video, mate. That's right. just lastly, mate, what are you up to these days? Are you got a gym or anything like most of the guys do these days, or what are you up to?
Man, no, man, I'm not a gym person, man. I'm more an outdoor person. But so I came back to New Zealand a couple of years ago to do some work for the NRL. And I was working at the New Zealand League, just helping the league over here. I stepped away from the NRL and I did a year with New Zealand League as GM football, right? So probably similar to like in Perth, where you're just trying to get the game going again, keeping it alive, working out ways to sort of get more people in and da-da-da, you know. So I was doing it up and down the country, and I just got really busy, and I thought, you know what, the kids are growing up fast. And I said, you know, I didn't, you know, my girl used to play soccer, so she'd have a game after school Wednesday 4:00. And when I took on that role, so this was a couple of years ago, when I took on that GM role at New Zealand League, I started missing the soccer games, you know, because I was too busy. I was around the country, helping out in Wellington and Christchurch and da-da-da, wherever. And I said to the CEO at the end of the year, I said, listen, I'm going to take some time off, you know, over the break over Christmas. And he said, all right, sweet, we've got 4 weeks over Christmas and New Year's. What are you thinking? And I said, I might start with a year and see how I go. And he goes, what? And I said, oh, bro, I'm just getting too busy, man. I'm losing time with the kids. And it's time I can't get back, you know. And I said, no, so I'm going to step away for a bit and sort of see what happens. So I stepped away. That was December 2019.
Yeah, right.
So 2 years ago, I sort of stepped away and I just tried to stop because I went straight from school into the environment, right? I was playing over in the UK for a bit, come back, Warriors, Dogs, Cronulla, the Bunnies, and then into the NRL, and then here in New Zealand League, and then out, you know. So I've been in the game for a long time, and I just wanted a break from it and just wanted to stop. So my mate rings up and he goes, man, bro, the weather looks good tomorrow. I want to go, let's go fishing. He's got a boat, you know. I'm going, give me the ETA, man, I'm there. You know? So I'm just trying to live a different life at the moment, slow down a bit, just do the simple things and enjoy it. Probably like the kids, man, like I said, just having fun. Yeah. You know, I help a couple of people out. I'm doing a bit of consultancy where I help a bit of people out with some of their projects if it works in around my fishing and my hiking and my camping and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just trying not to be too busy at the moment. You know, just trying to enjoy each day as I can, and you know, you never know what's around the corner, man. So
yeah, beautiful.
And it's been awesome. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. I bet the kids and the missus love it, mate. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's good fun. It's good fun. Like I went for a hike to me and my wife, and our dog got a Roddy. We took him to a forest this morning for about 3 hours. You know, just nice. Wandering around, you know, and get a coffee on the way, and you're off.
Yep.
And my mates are all at work. I'm going, oh, good on you, mate. You know, you chose to do that work. That's all good, man. You know. Yeah. So it's so just enjoying the freedom to live a bit of a different life at the moment. Yeah,
cool. Man. That's all I got for you today, mate. Thank you so much for your time, buddy. I really appreciate it, mate.
Oh,
best of luck with everything coming up for you, whatever you decide to do.
I might be over your ways, man. I might end up there somewhere, man. You never know.
Oh, mate, if you do, just hit me up, mate, and we'll catch up for a coffee or something.
Yeah, I'll reach out. No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate what you're doing for the game. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there like yourselves, just taking hold and just doing it. Just actioning, like you said, man. You've sort of last few months, it's been going pretty crazy for your new venture. But it's been, but you know, appreciate guys like you that are doing your bit to help the game. You know, so don't think it's not seen and don't think it's not appreciated.
No, beautiful, mate. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Cheers, mate. You have a good day.
Hey, say hi to the family too, man, and round them all up, round all the kids up, and give them the advice.
I will, mate. I will.
All right.
Thanks very much, bro. Have a good one.
Man. See you later.